entrance before, but that's okay.
Hey everybody! Hopefully, we're streaming live. It's another episode of Going Deep Underground.
We apologize for being a minute late.
So I'm Rick here with Scott, and tonight, special guest Jen.
Back again.
If you watch The Underground, you'll know Jen from our last episode.
She's back!
She's back. So Sean has had a little coronavirus incident, not directly, but some kids at his daughter's school, and so we all decided it might be better for him not to be down here since they've all been kind of exposed.
We miss
We're
you,
actually-
sending out positive thoughts.
We're starting to see the vid make its way into our lives. Like, your nieces have had it.
I've had one for sure, and so I've got an older brother who's got 3 daughters, and the oldest who's currently at BYU. By the way, they live in Utah County, which here in Utah is the number one spot for coronavirus these days. But anyway, she's got it, and the other 2 girls have been sick, and they haven't been tested, and they're all better now, but we're guessing they might have had it, and so yeah, it's definitely starting to hit us.
Well,
personally,
my son has it now. My son
Taylor
who's
has it.
down in Utah County. So Taylor and Lolly. Hope you guys are doing okay. Hang in there.
And so now it's hit Sean directly. Well, I guess it's indirectly more than anything. But again, some
Close.
friends of his daughters at school came down positive, and so because they've been exposed to it, we decided that it'd be better for him not to join us, but instead we get to have Jen with us.
We're playing it safe, and so we get to have Jen. So it's good to have you here. So what are we talking about tonight, dude? What are we going deep about tonight?
So tonight we're going to discuss aliens. So aliens is something I've been fascinated with my entire life, pretty much. I've always loved movies and shows and stuff about aliens. I've always been fascinated with the potential of aliens existing. And pretty much from an early age, I kind of caught on to the fact that just from a mathematical standpoint, it's near impossible that there wouldn't be other beings out there outside of Earth.
So early age, you thought that. Like
Yeah.
you knew that. What about you?
I didn't even think about it.
Well,
I wasn't even thinking
wasn't
about
So
it.
we
Sure.
talked about this a little bit in one of our episodes of The Underground, I think, or maybe, I can't remember. But anyway, we talked about this a little bit, that growing up in the Mormon church, we were always taught that there's Earths without numbers, there's people without numbers, and so that always played into my, maybe it's a desire, I don't know, but belief that there would be, something else out there.
I just wasn't even that cognitive to be able to even go there. I was just bumbling around, just in my dumb little world. Like I wasn't even thinking about it. So
For me, ghosts, spirits, totally no problem. But like ET, aliens, I mean, I think that as we obviously expand with technology and, we it's not just 9 planets. It's just like the more that we discover out there and the more that these crazy telescopes, are finding stuff out there. I think it was the video.
the one where it showed the planet Earth, and then it went
Yeah.
out big, and then it showed the Earth with the moon.
How long ago was that? That's maybe
A year, 2 years, maybe. I'm sure
you've
you've.
that, but
If you watch this video, we should see if we could find a link and then put it in there. But
Well, this is live.
Oh, this is
So
live.
we won't be able to do that, but we could probably
In the
put it in the
comments.
comments if we can find it.
Well, it's just so cool to see this perspective getting bigger, and then you realize we're a speck,
Then it just
like
keeps
a speck on a
expanding.
I think
sand.
the thing about it is that I think we kind of get caught up in the Earth being our center of the universe, And so I think that, like you said, it really puts things into perspective as far as how much of a tiny little speck we are
Yeah.
in the grand scope
Like,
of things.
we're really alone.
And, I mean, there's millions, if not billions, of other galaxies out there, let alone planets and stuff like that. So, like I said, I again playing on or playing along with the teachings I was getting from church, that there were other, that God had other children. And
But did you get
stuff
the
like that.
impression that they were like more green guys, or they were more
So,
like human?
So also in the church, you're taught that God created us in His image.
Yeah.
So the way I thought of it back then was that they weren't necessarily, E.T. look, but I kind of thought they wouldn't necessarily look exactly like us,
Yeah.
but they would still, you could still say they were in God's image if they had 2 arms and 2
Yeah.
legs, and it didn't have to be exactly like us. But now that I don't believe in God that way, I mean, who knows what they look like.
So how deep are we going in this episode? Like, are we
I
going?
mean, it's called going deep.
Are we going way deep? Are we gonna really talk
So,
about some of the?
There's a couple things that I wanted to bring up. There's a couple shows that I've been watching, and one of them isn't. I mean, it's deep because talking about aliens is a deep subject, although it's much less of a deep subject than it was back when we were growing up.
25 years ago, 30 years ago.
That one's called Unidentified. The one I'm thinking about is called Unidentified: Inside America's UFO Investigation, and a lot of people might be familiar with it if you follow that kind of stuff at all. It's one that Tom DeLonge, who was one of the members of Blink-182, I don't know how or why was the one that did this, but he's gotten all these people together. One, and kind of the guy who leads their team, his name is Lou Elizondo, and he was the former director of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program at the Pentagon.
You say threat or threat? Okay, threat. Okay.
So he worked at the Pentagon studying these things, and now he leads this team that Tom DeLonge put together to study UFO sightings and stuff. And so that's a really cool one, because they've really had a hand in just recently where the government has come out and admitted and shared videos from military pilots.
Well, that's why I pulled that up. That video that the Navy.
That's the one. So
Navy.
They're kind of responsible for that video being outed.
So what he's talking about, for those of you that have been living in a bunker for the last, let's see, this came out in April, September.
Almost a year?
Yeah, I'm seeing 2 different videos, but one is on CNBC from April of 2020. One is from September 19th of 2019, so just a little over a year ago. But the Navy is confirming that these unidentified flying objects are real. And if you haven't seen this video, it's pretty phenomenal, because these pilots are tracking this object that's flying, and they're trying to lock in and keep up with it. And it is just hauling ass.
It's going
across the
faster.
horizon.
It's making maneuvers that they can't explain from the aircraft that we know. It's these guys that are flying the highest tech of airplanes and jets, and yet they're seeing this object. So it's become much more of an admitted thing now.
It's open.
Recent.
It's out there.
So that's one of the shows I've been watching for the last... That show's been on for a couple years now. I think it's season 2 or 3. But there's another one talking about how deep are we going to go. This gets pretty deep. So this one is actually on Gaia. We've talked about Gaia before. Gaia's a streaming service like Netflix, but for spiritual and...
Spirituality.
Yeah, for spirituality. And one of the shows they have is called First Contact, Channeling Bashar. Have either of you heard of that? Know about it?
Dude, watch
Dude,
that one.
have we not watched anything like that? Like, we've gotten really big into Gaia. We liked watching Gaia.
No,
but...
I think we watched like the ones Ancient Aliens
Oh, that
or
was
something.
pre-Gaia.
So most people will know Ancient Aliens, and I've talked about this before. Ancient Aliens I really like.
That opened my mind.
Because
So
that wasn't originally on Gaia, wasn't
No, that was on
it?
the History
Aliens,
Channel.
yeah, and that's been on for years now. And the thing that I always liked about that is Ancient Aliens to me sort of made it mainstream.
Yeah.
the thought of aliens
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so, like I said, it's something that I've been interested in and followed since I was a kid, and that was the first show that kind of made it something that you could talk about.
A possibility.
But so Ancient Aliens is a good one, and that goes pretty deep in a lot of its episodes. But this one's called First Contact, Channeling Bashar, and essentially it's this guy who goes around and he does these little workshops where people come to listen to him, and he basically gets channeled by this alien being. Now, I've only watched a couple of the episodes. I just found it last week, I think, or
When
a
did
couple weeks
it
ago.
come out?
I'm not sure.
So
Okay.
there's something to that right there,
Okay.
the channeling aspect.
Well, that's
of
why I say
a
this
collective
one,
energy.
That's why I say this one goes even deeper than what you would normally talk about when it comes to aliens, because normally it's when you talk about aliens, it's in the form of videos of spaceships. It's in the form of people getting abducted. You don't usually hear a lot of stories about people channeling alien beings, but that's what this one is.
Specifically alien, he says that, not
Oh yeah, no,
like
no, no.
energy or
It's-
collective.
No, yeah.
Okay.
It's an alien being,
That's
and
crazy.
he.
Okay.
I mean, there's actually I don't know if it's a show or a movie. Now that I think about it, but anyway, at the beginning he talks about how this alien just comes to kind of provide wisdom.
Let's talk a second about abductions, because you just mentioned that, and you asked me like, what did I think about aliens as a kid? Like, what did I think about that? Like, I remember seeing Close Encounters, and I remember seeing E.T. and gosh, Enemy Mine. So aliens represented fiction, science fiction to me, and I remember hearing about alien abductions and just that filter of, what a crock of crap, like just not even
Somebody's making it
possible
up.
for me to, like, without thinking about it. Like, I didn't even have to think about it. It was just like, oh, that seems like bullshit to me. That doesn't seem like anything like Heavenly Father.
Well, it goes back to what we've talked about of being conditioned by our how we're brought up and what we're taught to believe certain things
Right.
and disregard other things. It's that type of thing did not fall into the realm of possibility with what we were traditionally taught growing up in the Mormon Church, or
Right.
I mean, really in general in life, even outside of church, but certainly not in church either.
This is such a big topic because
I can see this taking multiple episodes up moving forward. But
all
yeah.
that we're doing is scratching the surface. And I think that what's important that we do for those people that are watching, because I think most of the people that are subscribers to our channel who might be watching this right now are people that have gone from organized religion, and now they're going, well, I'm not sure what I believe. And so this is kind of a forum to be able to go, hey, check out this video.
Yeah, these
Or-
other things that I always was taught to believe are true, I'm now realizing that I don't believe are true. So what else is there out there that I've never thought about with the potential of being true or not? But hey, maybe, who knows?
So how do you suggest for people to start kind of like dipping their toe in the water to go, what do I need to be open about? What do I need to consider? What should I watch?
Well, and I mean, in regards to aliens, I think we've talked about too. This one that I've mentioned, certainly Ancient Aliens, I think is a good place to start. They cover a lot of different aspects when it comes to the alien topic, but then this Unidentified Inside America's UFO Investigation, I think it might be on the History Channel or one of those not National Geographic, but anyway, it's on cable, and it brings it to more of a today kind of a
modern.
conversation, where Ancient Aliens is talking a lot about things that have happened in the past.
Biblical times,
could
aliens involved.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about the Ten Commandments.
There's actually, I was doing, digging deep a little bit, and there's actually an episode where they actually talk about Joseph Smith
Oh yeah,
and how the first vision
was an alien.
was actually aliens.
way.
Wow,
I haven't seen that episode. I just saw a little clip.
that'd
of
be
it.
something to check out. I just remember watching Ancient Aliens when we were first living together. I'm telling you about it. Might have even told my dad about it, but they were talking about how when Moses was leading the people, out of into the wilderness and looking for that promised land and
The burning bush.
the burning bush and the Ten Commandments, and how there was this alien technology that they kept in the Ark of the Covenant, and that's why. And the guy that, from Ancient Alien, the guy with the big hair, he's describing it, and he's talking about how this technology that they had was nuclear, and that's why it burned people if they opened up the covenants to be able to, the Ark of the Covenant to look in and see this technology. And I just remember hearing that for the first time, and this was 2010 probably, right? In that phase of you and I going, what the hell what is this? Like, what is this? And I just remember thinking about it, and it was the first time that I thought, I mean, like, why not? Like, what?
Well, I think you go in phases of like accepting things or being open to things. I mean, like, you could go so deep down the rabbit hole with energy, with aliens, with even just each of those subtopics within those. And I mean, you could just go so far down and just feeling overwhelmed. And especially if you have gone through like a faith crisis, or, you're going through that now or looking to find something, it can be overwhelming. So I think things always in like doses and stuff, starting like that,
Sure.
and then, always take everything with a grain of salt.
Well, we've always talked about the whole idea of going through our spiritual awakening and coming to that realization that these things that we always believed were true, now we don't necessarily believe them to
Question
true.
everything.
So it just makes you start thinking, okay, well, if these things aren't true,
Right.
what else is not true? Or what else
Well,
is true that I've been
Right.
taught wasn't true?
And also, what I believe now, if I would have told myself 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, you're going to believe this, or you're going to follow this, or be interested in this, I would have been like, you're up in the night. Like, no way. But so if I believe now what I believe and look back and didn't have any of that knowledge, and I'm open to that, what will we be open to in 5 years from now?
Who knows what'll happen between now and then in the world and beyond, but to evolve what we believe. But one of the things, sort of shifting gears a little bit, one of the things that I found, I hadn't really thought of this, and I can't remember, I think this was from the Unidentified show, where they talked about this, and it was something that it's pretty obvious, but I hadn't really thought about it. You think about the stories that you hear when it comes to aliens and UFOs, and you think stories going back to the 50s, 60s, it was all War of the Worlds, it was the saucer.
Close Encounters
It
of the
was,
Third Kind.
they were all, well,
At
not,
70s.
Or is that
not so
70s?
much.
Okay.
Well,
That's Steven Spielberg.
so then you get to the 70s and you've got stuff like that. So point being is you had flying saucers that
Yeah.
that kind of
How'd that go?
but like growing up the shape of what you thought of as a UFO, right?
The Jetsons.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
But in most cases, stories and whatnot, the aliens were always evil's probably not the right word, but they weren't doing us any good. It was all scary
Taking
stuff.
over your planet.
Yeah, like World of the Wars. And
Yeah.
stuff. So, but then you get to the 70s and the 80s, and you get stuff like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. Now you start seeing different shapes, and even in people's stories of them seeing UFOs, the types of UFOs, it kind of goes into different shifts. Nowadays, it's all of the stories you hear, most of them are either people see glowing orbs, or they see cigar shape, or what they call tic tac
Tic-tacs.
shaped UFOs. And it's interesting to go back and see how it's changed and what that means. I don't know. I mean, my first reaction to that would be, well, that seems like people are just going along with the current story, but who knows? I started thinking about it, like, well, you think of the different types of aircraft that we have. Mm-hmm. So, of course, they would have different kinds of aircraft. And there's more than... If there's aliens, if there's more than just humans, if there's one more than just humans, then there's the likelihood that there's more than just one more. There's multiple, and they would all have different types of aircraft. So who knows what that means? But I just found it was interesting how there was kind of cycles between the stories and the sightings that people, told and what they saw. And
Crazy.
that was kind of an interesting thing that just got brought up that like I said, I hadn't really thought about.
So, I mean, have you heard, this is going crazy, but again, we talk about crazy stuff, but that we're some experiment of another alien race.
So there's, if we were, if that's where I'm saying that I can see this conversation will take up many episodes of going deep, because there's all kinds of stories of that.
Theories.
You think about the Alien series and where it went to with Prometheus, and the idea that that Earth was exactly what you're saying, basically. That we were kind of an experiment. And Ancient Aliens delves into a lot of that kind of stuff. Of course, you've got the lizard people that live in the core of the Earth.
The reptilians.
So there's a lot of really deep and what probably most people would consider just absurd.
I think that's why a lot of people just love, I'm sure you guys have mentioned it before, ignorance is bliss. Just... Here's, you just feel like...
You live in this bubble, you're happy with how things are, and things outside of that bubble can get scary, so why even know about them?
It really... When I watched that video, again, where it kind of zooms out to everything, I'm not going to lie, it kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety, because I'm like, holy shit.
There's no plausible way that we're it on this little... in the universe, that we're the only intelligent life out there.
See, I'm kind of the opposite. It kind of excites me.
Like how?
Just, I've talked about the whole idea behind my fascination with science fiction and fantasy is that it just allows you to use your imagination, just the possibilities of the different things.
Star Wars is real.
Yeah,
real.
It's just always fascinated me to think about what kind of different beings, what kind of different places are out there.
So, ever since I started watching Ancient Aliens and I started reading things about aliens and listening to people oh man, who is the scientist before Stephen Hawking that was really big on smoking weed? What was his name?
What are you talking about?
Oh, what was his name? I'll Google after this. I want to continue with my thoughts. So I've started listening to him and reading his stuff and listening to Stephen Hawking's. This is what Stephen Hawking is saying about advanced civilizations outside of our realm. Such advanced aliens would perhaps become nomads, looking to conquer and colonize whatever planets they could reach. Hawking said in 2010. On an episode of Into the Universe with Stephen Hawking, a TV show that aired on the Discovery Channel. If so, it makes sense for them to exploit each new planet for material to build more spaceships so they could move on. Who knows what the limits would be? Now, this is the interesting part. We don't know much about aliens, but we know about humans. If you look at history, contact between humans and less intelligent organisms have often been disastrous from their point of view, and encounters between civilizations with advanced versus primitive technologies have gone badly for the less advanced. A civilization reading one of our messages could be billions of years ahead of us. If so, They will be vastly more powerful and may not see us as any more valuable than we see bacteria.
I mean, there's kind of
I just think there's plenty of room for everybody, so everybody just get along, and planet included.
Well, what he's
Planets
saying
included,
is
galaxies
looking at like
included.
humans and the way that humans behave. Like, is this? I remember
you
also
just look back at our history when
look at Native Americans.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at Europeans coming to America, look at Europeans going to Australia,
Yeah.
and how the natives fared.
The less advanced technology got pretty much wiped out. Like, just pretty much wiped out. So, we've got these movies like Independence Day and War of the Worlds, and I think that that's, one of those things that's exciting because it's unknown, but there's so much to it. I don't know what you've got on your list of topics for what you wanted to cover tonight, but like we get into looking at the pyramids.
Crop
we start
circles.
talking
those.
about
That was one of one of the early Ancient Alien episodes that really intrigued me was the one where they discussed the pyramids, and I remember they had a guy on there who was an engineer or something.
Yeah.
And he basically said, we don't have the machinery to be able to build the pyramids today if we wanted to, let alone back during those times. And so
With
the whole
nothing, with
idea
no
behind this
technology.
episode of Ancient Aliens is that it was aliens that helped them build those. And that you can go, again, really deep with that whole storyline. But
well, there's a lot of confusion about what the pyramids are for. That they were a tomb, but there's no sign of any tombs in there. There's no burial. There's like when Egyptians buried people, it was very elaborate. There was their possessions and stuff that they took with them to the afterlife, and there's nothing like that in there. And I was watching something on Gaia. I wish I could reference what it exactly was, but they were talking, and it was engineers walking through the pyramids, and they said, "This is a machine." Like as we look around, and you can see the vents and the tunnels and the way things are situated in the pyramids. They said, this is a machine, and I would not have wanted to be in here when this machine was running. So what does
Was its
that
purpose? What did it do? What was it for? Who built it? Who put it here? Like, yeah, all those questions.
I guess the most fascinating thing for me is all of these what ifs. Or what are the possibilities?
Because
so
you use
many,
your imagination to figure
there's
out what that is.
so many different things
Yeah.
that could be possible. And is there aliens? Is there not? If there is, what are their intentions? Why would they be coming here? What kind of interaction would we eventually have with them? Have they been here before? There's just so many different splinters
yeah.
off of the main branch that you can go down, and it's just it's all these unknowns that just
Well, I think okay, so when was that whole storm Area 51?
That was last year.
Yeah. I mean, I think as it's not so much oh, haha, funny, alien chasers, it's becoming, like you said, less cultish. A cult following with aliens.
I think there's a lot more
what
people
I mean?
who are open to the idea that
waking up. People are
that-
waking
Well,
up.
and those videos from CNN and stuff, and the NASA. And
Yeah, I think once you start
the
seeing it
military,
coming from
yeah.
military, it's one thing to see airline pilots and, they'll tell their stories and different things. But I think, and like I said, I think Ancient Aliens has made it more mainstream. But once you start hearing and seeing videos and stuff that's coming from military people.
So we've
I think
talked
that
about this now.
builds some credibility.
We've talked about this multiple times tonight. If you haven't seen these videos that were released by the Pentagon, go to Google and put in Pentagon declassifies UFO videos taken by Navy pilots. Or U.S. Navy confirms UFO videos are the real deal. One of them is CNBC, the other is YouTube. Or sorry, CNN. The other is CNN that has put these videos out
And this
there.
is just recent. Like I said, the latest video was September of last year, but in the scope of our lives and in the history of the world. This is recent stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about the Unidentified show is that they certainly go back. And do you guys know about Project Blue Book?
Oh yeah.
So they go into Project Blue Book, and if you don't know what that is, that was back. So it's essentially, was it Werner von Braun?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Anyway, one of Hitler's
Google.
top scientists that they ended up bringing to America, and he headed up a lot of our rocket programs. But anyway, they created a special team called Project Blue Book to investigate UFOs and the threat, the potential threat to the country. And so, they delve into stuff like that that's a little older, but a lot of the stuff that they get into in that show is more current stuff.
Do you think that there's somewhere on America where there are like aliens that have been like captured and studied and underground? Like,
did you watch that video that
bunkers
Sean?
and
Hey
stuff?
Sean, did you watch the video that Sean sent us about UFOs and the presidents knowing about UFOs?
Yeah, that was gonna.
Did you watch that?
No, not yet. No.
You haven't watched that? I mean, it talks about how there are locations and there are things that even the President of the United States doesn't have access to.
Oh, then
the President of the United States
Yeah.
cannot get access to Area 51.
Yeah,
Oh no shit! I didn't know that.
So you watched
Yeah,
that?
so
Now that goes a lot deeper.
According to this video, that it's so secretive that the president can't even get in there.
What
Which is crazy.
What they were saying
So-
was, now this is deep. Those of you watching, this is deep. But they said that there has been a deal made with aliens, allowing them to abduct people from the planet Earth.
As long as they didn't hurt them
And just
if they,
wipe their
and
minds.
they didn't remember anything.
and wiped their minds and brought them back to the same place. And
One of the and this could play into. Do you ever? I think I talked about this in the last episode of Going Deep, but there was a movie back in the maybe late '80s, early '90s called Fire in the Sky, and something more recently that happened, and I'll explain why this correlates. But there's been a recent story in the last few years about the Phoenix lights. You guys know about those? Where there was a
No.
set of lights that
Okay.
thousands of people saw over
Okay.
Phoenix.
we have
Look it up.
We have a caller that would like to call in and talk to us right now.
Oh yeah.
So Cindy, I didn't catch that the first time that you were calling, but if you want to try and call back, we can get you so you're talking on here. She said, I called because, there she is. So, Cindy,
Hello.
hey, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
So you said you've got some mind-blowing stuff to tell us.
I do.
Well, this is a first. We've never done this before. We're taking a caller, so blow our minds.
Wait, am I on your...
Oh, you're on.
We're on the...
No, I can't be on... Oh my god, okay. Okay, I can't be my source then, okay?
All right.
Okay, so first of all, the whole alien thing, there's two things about it.
Okay.
They have come to Earth, but they are not here currently.
Okay.
Okay, so they are not here currently. They don't have any type of agreement. The stuff that they have from aliens, it's all factual, but some of it is to kind of throw people off. And so, like, I can name my source offline, but I'm not going to name it online because I can't do that.
We understand.
Anyway, but one of the biggest things that you guys are talking about are the pyramids and the machines and everything.
Right.
One thing, and a lot of anthropologists believe this is not the first, second, third time we're having, we're experiencing a burnout with technology. Like back when the Egyptians, I'm sure they had a source of communication like phones. They could have had cable. They could have had electricity. Of course, we can't date that back hundreds of thousands of years ago,
Right.
but we do know it existed. And then once technology sets in, it grows so quickly that there's a massive burnout. And then it just kind of regenerates itself again and again and again.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was something like, Benjamin Franklin worked on. He was very adamant. If you go back and look at his past work, he talks about these things. And as a matter of fact, Galileo, if you go back and read, he was excommunicated from the Catholic Church, which now they've come back and apologized to him.
Right.
Because he actually stated this. He said, look, this isn't our first time, going through this. And he went a lot further. And so the Catholic Church was like, well, you're trying to predict the future and you're trying to do this. And he wasn't trying to do that. He was just trying to say, look, we've done this before. What are we going to do differently now?
Wow.
And so basically they kicked him to the curb, and then now they apologize for everything they had said to him because he was right. So we're nearing a time where we're going to have another burnout. Who knows? The concept of time was different to the Mayans, to the Egyptians, to us. So we can't pinpoint when it will be.
What do you think?
But then,
what do you think that'll mean for us? Like, what do you think happens then?
I think that we get into it so heavily. It could mean nuclear, who knows? I don't know. Back then they can't pinpoint what happened to them. What they think happened to them back then is the advances were so great that they were able to overtake different civilizations.
Right.
So they were able to, that's like why, you hear of certain ones that were the strongest ones, but we know many more existed. So the fact is that they were so advanced, they were able to take them over. And that led to what we know is the burnout.
Wow.
But yeah, so, but I mean, it's all there, especially if you go back and read Galileo's work and things of that nature. It's all there. It's all there. And they talk about it, and you can't really hide that stuff. But as far as the aliens thing, I kind of think like the guy from Green Day, this is my personal opinion, talking to other people, I think they kind of just accepted his work, kind of to shut him up, because he just kept going and going and going and going and going. And so they were like, okay, well, you know what? We'll throw you a bone. Where a lot of...
So basically, they're what you're saying is they're like, well, the world is to a point now where it's not a big deal to release a video like this, so we're going to throw them a bone. And so that'll kind of...
Shut them up.
Yeah, that'll kind of suffice for the time being and not get them worrying too much about even deeper stuff.
Cindy, that is so cool. That is, I mean, that's... So look into Galileo, look into the research that he was doing, look into the fact that technology kind of got to the point where, how did you describe it? It was... They got beyond what technology was. I mean,
I would say we are definitely in that arena where we've got all this just crazy technology that I don't think we even understand all of it that can do. Yeah.
Wow.
And it makes me wonder if those alien planets are watching us, seeing how this is all playing out.
Well,
they've got bets going.
What was Cindy, we won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much for calling in and giving us something to talk about. You're awesome. But
our first ever calling guest. Thank you.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah. Also look up if you're gonna look up anybody, look up Benjamin Franklin, look up Edison, where technology made civilizations implode.
Okay.
Basically from the inside out. And so you'll gain a lot of knowledge through that as well.
Hey, will you post that in a comment? what you just said? Post that in a comment on the video. That way people watching can kind of trace it. So right on. Hey, thank
Thanks,
you so
Cindy.
much for watching and
That's so
calling in,
cool.
Cindy.
Okay, bye, you guys. Love
Take
you
care.
all.
Love you. Bye-bye.
So, this could, we hear about the city of Atlantis.
Yeah.
That could play, a lot. There's certainly alien
I've never
stories.
heard that theory before.
I
that
haven't-
we got past the point of technology and it reset and it wiped out. But man, that
But there's a lot of alien tied stories to Atlantis, and who knows? Maybe something like that is, what happened to Atlantis.
she was saying something about them not like the aliens, not being on the planet and whatnot. But what I've watched, especially on that show on Hulu. What was the name of that show on Hulu?
The one that
Yeah, the one that we watched probably
Keep going,
about
I'll-
6 months ago. So in this show, I mean, and this is really for the deep conspiracy theorist that wants to, oh my gosh, it's right on the tip of my brain. Above Majestic.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
I remembered it.
Yes.
That's so awesome. In Above Majestic, they talk
That
about
was-
aliens interfering. We're being watched. Like our planet is being watched. They're observing us. And when the first nuclear explosion went off, that energy from that atom bomb back in the 1940s when they were doing the testing and when we dropped the bombs in Japan, that energy went out into the universe and it was noticed, and that there have been reportings of different bases throughout the country that have been visited by UFOs that have shut down those. Do you remember that part that I'm
reactors.
talking about? Yeah, the reactors.
And so it kind of made them duds or whatever.
If you haven't watched
I've
Above
actually-
Majestic on Hulu, it's worth it.
Yeah, I've actually
That was
heard
good.
that that from other places too about UFOs showing up at nuclear sites and the whole site getting
Shutting
down,
it
stuff
down,
like
taking
that.
away the energy from
Calm
it. So
down, Earthlings.
And this kind
right,
of
Get
kind of
your
like
shit
cool your
together.
tits, just
and
chill out.
Here's the thing: is that she brings up completely new things that we haven't thought of. I don't know who her source is, but I'm really looking for. It sucks for everybody else, but I'm really looking.
We're
forward
gonna
to
find
it.
out, but
But
you won't know.
It just adds that much more mystery. I guess that's what it is. I mean, it's kind of the mystery of what's out there and what possibilities.
Once you take those limiting beliefs off the table and throw them away and say, all right, I just want to learn. I just want to know. I just want to be informed. I want to just and the crazy thing is that those people that have been advanced, and by advanced I mean had the balls to be looking into this type of stuff when
Ahead
it
of
was
their time.
unconventional.
Well, you
right?
think, we talked about how it was kind of looked down upon when we were growing up. Imagine you're talking about Galileo and how this
Yeah.
stuff must have been looked at when he
yeah,
was,
for real.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, that's pretty impressive that they'd have the guts to.
And I'll tell you that rational progressive thought just makes you want to go, no, come on, that's impossible, that's crazy. But we just don't know what we don't know. And when somebody's telling you that this is what it is, this is what we know, but they can't prove it. Like religion wants you to believe just with absolute faith without any evidence of anything. I mean, even the Mormon Church with the Book of Mormon and the wars fought in the Book of Mormon and the number of casualties that took place between the supposed Lamanites and the Nephites, there's not one single piece of archaeological evidence in the entire North American continent that backs up this, but yet we've been told that this is the truth. So
I was just thinking, to go along with that, there's still going to be people out there that don't believe in
Of
aliens,
course.
and that's
Of course.
that's fine. But I think at this point, there's more evidence to suggest that
There's at least
is
something.
there is something out there than not.
Would you want to meet one? Would you want to?
I would. I've always, look, you've got the.
So you're putting this on the World Wide
You've-
Web
you've got
to
the-
any aliens that are watching. Ricky Howard,
Pick
living
me.
in Stansbury Park, Utah, would love a date with an alien.
You've got the fire in the sky aliens where they're sucking you up to their spaceship and probing you. And
Yeah.
it's not a good experience. And then you've got the
But
ET
if you did-
aliens. And I've always, obviously I don't want to do the first one, but
You don't?
I'd love to be buddies with ET.
You don't want to be
Probed?
Well, I mean, not necessarily probed. That's not what I'm saying. But you don't want to be like taken for like an
You
experiment.
don't worry. You're not going to
and-
remember it anyway.
You're not going to remember it.
Well, then what's the point?
Wasn't there something you were telling me like this
No.
whole like? Sorry, were you gonna?
I was just going to say that, like at the end of Close Encounters,
Yeah.
like, would you get in that like he did? Would you go with him? I always thought that.
If
that
Jen
What
was
would you
question,
do?
if you were cool with it, I'd go.
to just be like, see ya.
If I was like, well, I'd be like, hey, they're
Take care of the
they-
kids, Jen.
They say they're gonna bring me back, but I mean, like,
Okay,
I'm
but
cool
would
if I
you-
go? You'd be cool with it, right?
See ya. Let me pack you a lunch.
You'd be cool. You'd be like, yeah, go.
You
Okay, would you have gone 5 years ago?
No. Would you?
Yeah.
You would have gone 5 years
I
ago.
would have gone first time
When
I
he
saw
was
that movie.
5.
I would have been like,
Goddamn,
I mean,
get me
just-
out of here.
like I said, I think obviously I'm looking at it from a more positive experience perspective, that it would be a good experience and not the bad probing experience, but who knows. But yeah, I always thought, yeah, that would be, I mean, obviously in that case, there was, you could kind of, if you're in his shoes.
Wouldn't it be creepy
If you haven't watched-
Rick just disappeared?
First
Then
of
he
all,
came back 7 years older.
I know. What if I disappeared and came back instantly? You didn't know it, and I just said, "Hey, I've got something to tell you."
Except
I just
you
got
were
abducted.
5 years younger.
Anyway, if you haven't seen Close Encounters, first of all, it's a great movie, but go watch it. But I think he's got enough evidence in there to think, okay, they're not here to hurt me. So they're
I
here to
think if
probably
they
study
would
us
have,
and whatever,
yeah.
but they're not here to hurt me. So, but yeah, I just thought, yeah, I was fascinated with that and would be like, yeah.
Stephen Hawking has a lot of thoughts on what it would mean if aliens came to the Earth, and
I know, but it's all bad.
they don't end well.
No, they
it doesn't end well.
And look, again,
But we keep sending shit out into space.
well, here's the
we're
thing.
sending messages out there. People are shooting signals out into space, kind of going, "Hey."
I think we're
that's
also cluttering up space too.
I think that's what
a
adds to
different
all of.
episode.
I think that's what just adds to the intrigue of this whole topic, is that you just don't know. It's just a big mystery, all of it, everything about it.
And that's what we want to talk about in this show, is just stuff that we have never really thought about, haven't ever really considered before.
Well, not necessarily.
Well-
we haven't always considered it or thought about it, but it hasn't been something that. Like I said, I've always been open to this, but it's a topic that a lot of people, if not most people, aren't open or haven't been open to.
Yeah.
It being a.
I think it's just
Possible.
because for me, growing up, science fiction was just science fiction. It was Star Wars, it was Star Trek, it was, just those movies that you watched where it was just like, oh, that was fiction. The Heavenly
Well,
Father has a plan for me here on Earth.
Like, I always saw that stuff as fiction, but it just always, it's all another possible reality of what's out there. And like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I like Star Trek. Everyone knows Star Wars is better, but I like Star Trek.
I like Star Trek.
I've always liked all that stuff, and it's just.
Did you like the Star Trek movie that came out in like 1979, 1980?
I don't even remember.
Ugh, it's awful.
I don't remember this. It's like the first one I remember is
The Wrath of
The
Khan.
Wrath of Khan.
The first one, get through it.
Anyway,
Get through. I know I'm pissing off any of our Star Trek viewers out there, but come on, that was an awful movie.
but I think I just always looked at those as, yes, they're science fiction, and that's just fiction. But I just saw it as, there's so many different possibilities of what might be out there. You
Yeah.
never know.
Well, we've given you guys something to think about. We've given you some things to look up. Cindy made some great recommendations. She says in her comment, look up the work of Galileo as well as Ben Franklin talking about technology getting surpassed. We've talked about
burnout.
looking at some things online on Gaia. If you haven't gotten a subscription to Gaia, it's 99 cents for the first month. And there's so much information on Gaia. And like Rick said, it's like Netflix for spirituality.
And regardless of any of that, I mean, if you just got cable, go on demand and search for Ancient Aliens.
Or Above Majestic on Hulu.
And the other one, like I said, a lot of these things talk about stuff that has happened in the past. But Unidentified Inside America's UFO Investigation, although they talk about stuff from the past too, it's more investigations of stuff that has happened more recently. In our lifetimes, certainly, but even in our more recent.
Cindy says, if
So-
you guys get confused reading up on the info I gave you, just ask. I will walk you through it. Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy.
So cool to have
Thanks.
you call in. And anybody else, if you ever want to call in and get a hold of us,
Now we know we can do it.
yeah, we can totally do it. Ta-da!
But yeah, so like I said, this is, we said in the very first episode, we talked a little bit about things that we wanted to discuss individually, and this was the one for me. And I think
This won't be it. This won't. Once we get Big Daddy in here, Big Daddy's.
we're going to go down a lot of different holes, and those holes are going to have a lot of different
Wormholes.
splinters. And
That'll be one
this whole topic about aliens is just going to be one that's discussed more and more as we move forward, as well as other topics.
There's a lot to it. Now, look, one more thing. I'm going to put this out there. So, for anybody that's watching that might be in Utah, we're getting ready to move into October. And, we talked about. Did we do an episode about spirits and ghosts and stuff yet?
No,
Paranormal
we've
stuff?
talked about your experience a little bit.
So October's coming up, and
Experience.
October is the month of the ghouls, and we've talked about doing an investigation at a site as an episode. Jen's out. She wants nothing to do with it, which is totally fine. I understand why. Energy transfers, we've shared with you guys in episodes past how energy transfers, but if anybody knows about locations here in Utah where we could get in and do an episode of going deep, we would love to
Or
get in and film.
Or even if it's with a local paranormal team that
Yeah.
does investigations, we'd love to go out.
If anybody
with them
knows any groups here in Utah that do paranormal investigations, the Underground wants to do something like that.
That's going to be the theme for the whole month of October is ghosts and that kind of
Paranormal.
thing. And so we just thought it'd be cool to it wouldn't be a live episode like the rest of these.
No, we'd have to definitely film it, but it would just be great to be able to do something live. Not to do something live. Get out there, have an experience, be able to. It's something that I'm very fascinated by, much to my wife's dismay. She doesn't like it because she knows that beacon of, hey, I'm aware of this type of energy is calling stuff in.
They like to hitchhike and they like to go home with you and cause
As we heard all about in the last episode of The Underground.
Right. So after these knuckleheads go off and try and chase all these
She
ghosts,
makes her husband live in
we
a
will
separate
do-
location for a month.
She said,
we will do
she said,
an
can I
episode
tell you this? She's like,
on
if you
clearing energy. We'll do an episode on saging, on crystals.
She goes, if you go do that, then you're going to have to stay in a hotel for a couple of days.
No, I said you're going to stay at Rick's house because you're not bringing anything home until you are cleared.
Anyway, we thought that'd be cool to do
Conditions.
for October. But
Help us out. Help
Yeah.
us out if you got suggestions for the
questions,
show.
comments, if you got information like Cindy, shoot it out to us. It's the stuff that fascinates us, and that's why we're doing this in the first place. So thanks for watching.
We're hearing from lots of people that have got comments and suggestions. And if you've got something that you want to share with us, feel free to email us at wearetheunderground3 @gmail.com and hit us up. Let us know what you're thinking. If you've got any recommendations, if you got any feedback for the show, if you have ideas about a soundboard, We'd love to hear it.
or topics.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Sean,
Next
we
week
missed
is
you
back.
again.
By the way, happy birthday to this guy. He's old.
46!
Bye, everybody.